About you guys, I bought a new computer to hopefully be able to start, that met the specifics to get where you could, it would clearly show what I'm filming in class. Just to kind of review where we are real quick, because we've covered a lot of stuff since the last quiz. How did Texas get out of debt once it became a state?
They sold a bunch of land to the U.S.
They what?
Sold a bunch of land to the U.S.
Yeah, they sold all that extraneous land to the United States of America. Indeed, a lot of it was pushed by the New Mexico dispute when the military commander helped Santa Fe set up a municipal government that was to be the beginnings of a new state government, because they didn't want Texas to have all that huge land. When Texas, what was the treaty that ended the U.S.-Mexican War and was supposed to preserve all the rights of the inhabitants and everything like that? It also said we'd have no land south of the Rio Grande border. Do y'all remember the treaty that ended the Mexican War?
Guadalupe Hidalgo.
Yeah, the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo. And because it promised that families would keep all their land, a long time ago, the Bali family got South Padre Island. And through twists and turns, they were actually able to get it back. So they made a ton of money. Shortly after statehood during the 1850 census, what were the major ethnic groups? What were the three major ethnic groups in Texas? Or four, I guess you could say. Anglos is one of them.
Tejanos, Native Americans.
Tejanos. Who else?
Native Americans.
Nope. Germans, believe it or not.
Irish.
No, actually the Germans were much bigger, because you had that one Miller Grant, the Fisher-Miller Grant in central Texas, that they settled places like Fredericksburg. Know about Juan Cortina, of course. What occupation did most Texans have?
Ranchers.
Did we talk about that yet? Let's see if we talked about it. The occupation that more than 50% of all Texans had was farming. And 25% of the Texans owned slaves, but I forgot, 30%, what is this? I think 90% of the ones that grew cotton owned slaves. And the Texans that did own slaves, for the most part, owned less than 5. Indeed, the majority owned 1. What did we get up to? Okay, transportation continued. We got up to freight contractors and stage lines that provided public transportation. They basically used strong, heavy wagons with iron axles, wheels 5.5 feet high, and tires 6 inches wide. These freighters might carry a load of 7,000 pounds. pulled by teams of 10 to 20 mules or horses. Freight rates would vary with the season and weather. The average was about 1 cent a mile. And actually with the freight contractors, you do get into a little thing called the cart wars. This happened down in San Antonio because it used to be that the Tejanos were in charge of the freight contracting in San Antonio. Indeed, one of the positions of the Tejanos is that he'd have a rag that was soaked in grease, and he'd also carry a bucket full of grease. And his job was to take that grease rag off his back and slap the wheel and axle so that it would stay continuously lubricated. Perhaps that's where we got the racial slur greaser from. We don't know. But in like 1857, it actually broke out between violence when Anglos tried to move in. And actually 75 or more people died, both Anglos and Tejanos, in the ox cart wars. For public conveyances, the stagecoach was the most popular. They are described as large, airy, and strong, in contrast to the ordinary hacks used by the eastern states. They might carry as many as 9 passengers on the inside. A few more on the outside if they wanted to pay a little less. Now, of course, travel by stagecoach was filled with danger. Sometimes it might be as simple as like mud, high water, cold weather. But other times it might be like Indian attacks or robbers. And the usual cost for that conveyance was about 10 cents a mile. And it was actually dependable to do interstate stage travel. Like in August 1857, we had a semi-monthly mail and passenger service between San Antonio and San Diego, California. You had like the Butterfield mail lines, which skirted the settlements of North Texas on a way that included St. Louis and Memphis, all the way out to San Francisco in the west. Federal mail and subsidies were largely responsible for the long stage lines.